Does
just.
anybody want their?
They do, oh,
No.
I mean, and with my job, the only employee, so, I just work on Friday.
Thanks.
And he's like, oh, they want to
Good evening and welcome to the Scarborough Board of Education workshop. The date is Thursday, September 21st. It's 5:30. Can we call the attendance, please?
Ms. Gammon,
Here.
Mr. Kelleher,
Here.
Ms. Leong,
Here.
yo. Mrs. Lindstrom,
Here.
Mr. Marino,
Here.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Here.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
She is running a little late.
and Mr. Shumway,
He's been excused.
and Ms.
Ledger.
Ledger.
Yeah, she's been excused too. Thank you. All right, would everybody join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, agenda item 4.0 is a workshop. 4.1 is the 2023-2024 Scarborough Superintendent and School Board Goal Setting Meeting. So what I'd like to do really quick is have a quick discussion about the meeting agenda tonight. So this is on, we're going to discuss it now during the workshop, but then we are set to vote on the goals at our meeting. And that is because our superintendent goals are supposed to be to Jeff by the end of September. There is some concern raised that we aren't giving the community time to read them and digest what we're doing. So I wanted to kind of take the temperature and see what we feel about adjusting the agenda and taking it off and voting on them at our next meeting so that people in the community, if they would like to read them, they have a chance. I think that gives Jeff his direction still, but allows for any feedback from the community should anybody want to provide it.
I think that makes sense.
I don't see anything wrong with, I mean, yeah, right, because he'll get them tonight.
Yeah.
So, right. It
Yeah.
kind of covers that
Mhm.
point of it, just making it official. We push it off.
It would be to October 3rd, I think is our next meeting.
I would agree with that.
Perfect.
I think so.
Have
The
we-
5th, yeah.
Have we historically ever gotten feedback on the goals that we set with Jeff or like any superintendent, do you know, like, do people typically weigh into?
Well,
This should be goal is.
I mean, we've gotten a recent email, one email, not an overwhelmingly large amount of emails,
Yeah.
but we have the one that's
Yeah,
which discusses our goals and is it appropriate or not appropriate for us to be to have our number one goal be the school board, be the unified school
Yeah.
project. But outside of that, that's the first time I've ever seen.
okay, no, I was just
Feedback.
curious, like, should we
Yeah.
expect anything or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would typically say no, but like I said, we did
Yeah, yeah.
get that one email, so.
If you don't give people the chance and they can't.
Right, no, yeah, I agree that it's worth doing it. I was just curious, like, typically, historically, have we seen feedback come in from that, so.
Yeah.
This will be the time that, because we don't, that people.
Right, of course.
People are gonna get hammered.
That would
with,
be our luck, right?
with emails, why did we get the,
And I've heard some anecdotal information about, like one email typically represents, I don't know, 10 people, or I'm just making it up because
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact information. I think it's like when writing your congressman or your senator that, one person's opinion generally represents like 100 people's opinion.
Hmm.
So that's some context to add to
Yeah.
one.
It's
Not that it would be 100 in the
Right, yeah,
spiral,
yeah,
but it would
maybe a couple,
something.
yeah.
It's usually more than one.
All right, so if we're okay, then if you wouldn't mind just offering an amendment that when we are ready to go. Or else I could offer it, I suppose. I guess you don't have to be the one, but we can take that off of our,
Off the business.
off the
meeting.
business meeting for this week and add it to the next. All right.
Great.
So, then let's go ahead and get started. I would like to start with Jeff's goals, just because that is the more time sensitive one. With ours, we did do our goals just recently. And so I suspect there won't be a ton of change there, but, Jeff's are the ones that, I would like us to start with. So Jeff did provide us with some suggestions for his goals, and then we have what we drafted for him for last year. So what I would like to do, if there's no objections, is work up of Jeff's document and then, go from there, if that makes sense, and we can add and adjust accordingly. Okay. So the first goal is, the Scarborough Schools community will continue to refine and update our shared vision for how to continually strengthen our learning organization and impact the development of our learners K through 12. Families and staff will have a clear sense of how professional development efforts, curriculum alignment, innovative, authentic learning experiences, and community connections serve to strengthen learning in all schools and classrooms. This goal will be met through proactive communication and revision of Scarborough's strategic plan, which will continue with our leadership council reviewing community and staff feedback to set strategic goals for the upcoming 2023-2024 school year. This reflection will occur through the summer during our leadership retreat time and culminate with fall goal setting for the superintendent and board of education.
So we continue to review the strategic planning and strategic vision document that's on the website. And that has been there's been multiple iterations of that, even within like the last couple of years. So treating that as almost like a living and breathing document, and then taking feedback and then work, and community involvement in, with staff as part of our leadership retreat, establishing goals for each year. That's kind of like your grounding document. So part of that goal this year too will be to kind of revisit that document in its entirety and renew it essentially. And that's and also I think it can be more prominently placed on the website. So a little challenging to find.
Yeah.
So in terms of just communicating with the public where we are in the process and where we are in the plan, that would be kind of like an overarching goal for this year, is because again, like a vision is great, but it has to be developed and collaboratively and with community input in order for it to be shared. And people got to know about it.
Is this something you do every year, or this is like a bigger, more in-depth?
It should be, right, yeah, so,
This is just, I'm wondering if it's a goal, if it's something we do every year, or shouldn't we, you and the team do every year, if it's like goal worthy, you know what I mean?
and we definitely do. That's the design of having a yearly community dialogue. It's also a big part of, our leadership retreat. It's also something that comes up in our monthly meetings with SEA, for example. And then also it's kind of intimately tied. This is kind of a unique year, right? Because we do have, school passes November 7th, school doesn't pass. I mean, there's a lot involved there. And I do think it's appropriate to have the building project in there, this year in particular, both as a board goal and as my goal, because it has a huge impact on our strategic vision for the school.
Well, I think when you talk about, like, when I reflect back and think about it, like when you talk about our strategic planning and you talk about looking ahead and you talk about what our role is, I mean, we've had, we know what our role is. Our role is to really advocate on behalf of the students here. That's where our focus is. And not necessarily on those that voted us in. And when you think about that, there's no better advocacy for our students than advocating for the school. Because we would have nowhere to put our students, our current students.
Take it out. I mean, with it, we have a plan for our students in the future.
Mhm.
Take it out, what do we have?
Right.
Chaos. We have no idea what's gonna happen.
Right, so, you know, when I'm thinking about my own goals and my own position and where I feel like my effort and leadership should be centered, that's one, kind of maintaining that overall strategic shared vision and communicating that well to the community. The second goal is really focused around students K to 12. And this year in particular, I kind of added some meat to that. Because now we're finally back where we'll be getting some usable student data between the fall and the spring, and being able to measurably demonstrate and benchmark student growth, which is great. And that's something that you know, Katie is really excited about digging into this year. So we're now at a point where I think we can do that more effectively. So that leading with kind of student achievement, and then some of our individualized learning goals for kids, and our multi-tiered student supports, which we've had now. This is the second full year of an administrative PLT, you know, focused on expanding and developing our student supports. And then the other side of that is also our DEI work and inclusive school and classroom culture. So we've talked a lot about that and continue to do a lot of work along those lines. So that's a piece of that second goal around students. And then the big drive with a lot of our PLT time for staff and for faculty is around social emotional learning. So we've adopted some curricula. Well, K to 2 is Mind Up, and then 3 through middle school is Ruler, and then high school is focused on expanding advisory and a lot of other things related to social emotional learning. So that's really like a K to 12 district PD focus for faculty. So that's included there as well as this overarching goal that is super student focused, right? And then the third goal is similar to what we established last year, which is really that collaboration with town leadership around our facilities and infrastructure needs. And obviously the school K to 8 strategic project being the core component of that, at least from the building side of things and district side of things. So those were kind of the three buckets that I thought about when just kind of putting this together.
That's great, thank you. Are there any questions for Jeff before we dive into the first? Okay. All right, so if we look at his first goal, I kind of like, well, overall, let me just say, I like the organization of it, like that we're thinking of a strategic 30,000 foot view. We're thinking about our students, and then we're thinking about our specific building needs. So I like the way this is structured. I think I would like to shorten one up and then maybe bullet underneath, like how we've, the format we've adopted for our goals and what you see in goal 2 and 3. So. Do you mind if I just make suggestions in here? Okay.
Can you, are you able to edit?
Yeah, I can make suggestions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that first sentence is sort of the goal, and then
Right.
the rest of it is.
How to get
yeah,
there,
yeah. How-
or what goes with it to make it happen.
Yeah, I like the focus on the families and staff having a clear sense of how professional development efforts, curriculum alignment, innovative, authentic learning experiences and community connections serve to strengthen learning in all classrooms. I think it's important. We've heard and we know our community wants us to engage with them. They want to feel like they're a part of the process. And so I think having that be a focus is incredibly important. However, do we need to make more specific?
And I would just add like another follow-up to this too, like this is designed to kind of identify what the goals are, but then there are obviously a series of
Steps,
action
yeah.
steps.
Underneath.
In terms of, all right, well, what are the steps that need to be taken in order to achieve or work towards?
I think the last part of that sentence in the first bullet point under goal 1 now just sounds weird. Just
Last-
serve to strengthen learning in all schools and classrooms.
You've got
Oh.
editing access to now, so
Yeah.
you can just go right ahead and tweak things.
But how do you, that has to end the sentence, because sentence isn't complete without it,
Yeah.
because that's what the communication is about.
How do we know this goal's been accomplished? I guess it's my question. Like how will, like, what will need to happen for you to say, check, done?
The
Like, what
measurables.
does it, yeah, what?
I mean, in practical terms,
Yeah.
the strategic plan that's on the website will be updated, refined and done and then communicated. Right? That would be the.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm wondering if so here, let me see if I can, I have my brain is operating like at 1,000 miles a minute. Okay, so the goal to me is that first sentence. The objective of the goal is that families and staff will have a clear sense. That's what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's almost like we take the bullet out and say objective. Like that.
Yeah.
And then this is going to be done by proactive communication. It's going to be done through revising the strategic plan.
Yeah.
Right, and
Yep.
then the steps that you take to communicate that out.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, so then.
So do I need to put like action steps here?
Yeah, because then it's also describing the time frame and how.
Yeah, like the metrics, like
Yeah.
what, I guess we can call it that, like what Carolyn was getting at.
Okay.
Okay, so. And we can maybe combine the third, because the strategic plan is the goal is to complete the strategic plan. By within the year, by next September.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. It would
Okay.
probably be even earlier than that, hopefully by early
yeah, so maybe the
spring.
second bullet doesn't necessarily need to be a bullet.
I think,
But actually, I would keep it, but I would make it for next year.
The one, the very
first.
last bullet,
Yeah,
okay. Okay, so what were
Okay.
you gonna say, Brian?
the action steps in the strategic plan will be accomplished.
yeah, I was just thinking more along the lines of what Carolyn had originally said, because anytime I've done goals, I feel like there should be something specific, right? So yeah, now we're putting dates like September, or
Mhm.
if Jeff feels like realistically that it should be done sooner, maybe we should
Mhm.
mention that, right? Because that's the goal, right? Rather than pushing things off to when it's too late. Not saying you're gonna do that, but right, that's how I've always set goals, is you have those specifics to them.
Yeah,
And obviously they need to be tweaked over time because there's conflicts,
And revision.
Not the revision,
Hmm?
not the revision. So I think, Jeff, if correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're saying is we have a strategic plan, we're trying to get it done, but as we go and we start kind of banging it out, more things evolve from that plan in order to accomplish the goal. So it gets revised and living and like in real time. So like you.
Right,
So like, that's what you're saying is that like, it's not that it's a static document that like, it's not your strategic plan is not a straight checklist. It's a checklist that you also add things to as you go because
Yeah.
things beget.
right. And I think that's why a lot of strategic plans end up gathering dust on somebody's
Yep.
shelf because they are static,
Yeah.
right? And they're not revisited. So we've tried to keep revisiting this and it's in need of a refresh and you know, I mean, things change as you go through a year and as we evolve. I mean, and then, you know, because there could be two very divergent paths after November 7th. For example, just in this kind of a unique year in that way, but yeah, I think the more it's revisited and refined and shared, the more powerful your strategic vision can become.
So I would actually make that 2 bullet points. So the strategic plan, I don't know if you call them action steps or objectives or whatever the title is in that document, will be accomplished by September 2024, but also be ongoing revision of the strategic plan to address needs as they arise.
Yeah, ongoing revision and communication.
Yeah.
Of strategic priorities, maybe.
Yeah, which is also what was encapsulated in the next bullet a little bit.
You know, and the framework I think that's used for the strategic plan is very good. With kind of the 4 cornerstone areas of, you know, that we're trying to focus in on. You
If we were
know,
gonna pull that up, how would we do that? Because I was having trouble finding it.
yeah, it's actually on the
I did like a search. but it didn't-
superintendent's page. A little tricky to find.
Where is your page?
Then there's under central office.
Under central office.
That makes
School
sense.
board can't find it.
Well, I did like a search on the website for it and I couldn't like pop it up with searching.
Yeah,
And
no,
I was
it's
like, I'm not
not,
working.
it's not easy to find.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done.
then
I
it's
tapped
under,
my
um,
abilities.
Under central office superintendent and comprehensive education plan.
That's what it is, the comprehensive education plan. I wasn't using the right search terms. I knew that because I couldn't find it.
But I wonder if this could go under, like, to your point, to make it clear and communicate better, could it be under district about, like, our goals are under the board about us? Right?
Yeah.
Like, could this be under the district about us? And then that to
Absolutely.
me seems like where you would,
It should be front,
meander
it should be front and center.
yeah.
For sure.
Okay,
Is-
so,
If this is ongoing, is there's a section in there that shows every time it's revised, like to show people recently updated? Just so they know, all right, March
Yeah.
2024, this was revised from November 2023.
Well, and I don't think actually the PDF that's on this document is the most recent version.
Okay, oh, interesting, okay. Well,
So, you know, so that's where I'm saying, like
You're looking for targets.
a lot of these things, you know, are underway and happening,
Yeah.
and so you read it and it rings true. It's just, but the document itself, I just think it could be more powerfully shared and communicated,
yeah,
you know. But,
Why don't we link it in the newsletter?
yeah,
yeah.
Like that, like throw it up there.
yeah.
If they don't want to read about the building, we'll read about. It's fine. You need stuff to look at, fine.
So having a long range vision for continuous improvement also does imply that you're constantly revisiting and this is not a static document. You know, the 4 strategic themes I think are right on in terms of, you know, what we're trying to do in terms of effective teaching and learning, being about student learning and professional development, instruction, safe, inclusive schools, which gets at social emotional learning. It gets at our DEI efforts. All of the importance of our emergency planning, all those kind of things, global citizenship, and then community engagement. and authentic learning experiences, but then also engaging the community in ways related to citizenship of our kids becoming adults, et cetera, et cetera. So those kind of strategic theme areas have been really consistent over the last, I would say, at least 10 years. And they make sense, I think. And then this also would also include the mission statement. I'm not sure the last time that has been, I want to say maybe 2017 or maybe 2016 was the last time the mission statement was.
I truly thought you were gonna say
Revisited?
20 years.
No, I don't think,
Yeah.
I think it's more recent than that.
This is a great mission statement, though.
It's really good.
It is really good. It's the
I agree.
fundamental purpose of the Scarborough Public Schools is to provide a safe and inclusive learning environment where each and every student is empowered to be a resilient lifelong learner who is prepared to engage as a contributing member of society. That's a great statement.
So too.
Yeah, mission statements can get long and forgettable.
Yeah,
And feel all, but then, it's like, so sometimes, and then unique ones, sometimes, I don't know. So, but anyway,
well, sorry.
I think it's good.
Where you might want to look is the core value statements and collective commitments.
Translate.
Well, there's only the one sentence, right? And so like when I think of core values and I think of collective commitments, it's really, I don't know what your process is. But in my mind, what I think of is a list of ideas that we all get behind, not we, but your staff, right? Your staff gets behind and has an input in and says, this is what every day when I show up to work at Scarborough Schools, this is what I'm committing to doing. This is the things that we value
Yeah.
as a district.
Yeah.
And so that might, depending on what you and the staff come up with, that list might be 15 things, right? Or 10 things or whatever it is, it's incredibly important that rises to the top.
Yeah. What I like about this core value statement is that, it's like the bumper sticker kid, is it good for kids? Period. Like all decisions really revolve around that, does it address that central question? Right. And keeping Scarborough schools student focused, right? Is a core value for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a nice statement to have. And I think it's very reflective of the staff and how the board operates, how we're oriented for sure. I tried to make it superintendent focused, like people should really be focused on the needs of the superintendent, but it didn't.
The needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many.
Thought I'd give it a shot.
What do you need, Jeff?
So do we think one of the metrics under this first goal should be updating the website? Does that seem to,
That would,
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like updating the website?
Yeah, so that it's a little more intuitive as to where to go for this information. Or.
So Frayla can find it.
So I can find it.
Right.
So
We'll just
Frayla
put
can find it.
yeah.
Just so Frayla can find it.
Yeah.
That's-
I mean, could it almost be a Google Doc that is not editable? And it sits there because that automatically shows you at the top when it was last edited, just other people don't have access to it.
Be like viewed only.
Right, view,
View
yeah, that's what I
only.
meant. Yep, view only.
Yeah.
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 So whoever does change it, you don't have to worry about the dates that you're changing it on, because similar to what Jeff is saying, like if there is a more accurate or more up to date, I should say, version of it, you'd never have to worry about that issue potentially, because it would automatically just be that. And it is, if it is a living document, right, that's kind of how these Google Docs kind of work. You
Yeah.
can-
In the first line of the metrics, I think it's strategic plan targets. 'Cause they're
Yeah, I
just
think
like-
I was gonna ask,
Okay.
I think yes to you. To you is it, so when what we're calling the strategic plan revision is actually your comprehensive education plan, is that correct? I
Yeah,
just want to make sure I'm using the right verbiage.
Yep.
Okay, so comprehensive,
I was gonna say for website purposes too, if we truly want people to read these, I think maybe we should word it in a way that people understand what they're gonna be looking at. Cause I wouldn't have expected necessarily superintendent goals based on however you worded it on the website, like right now. I expect big goals for the district, but not necessarily specifically superintendent goals. So I don't,
On the website.
yeah, I forget how somebody said what, the way it's labeled on there.
Oh, right, because it's
It
labeled
sounds very-
under superintendent. Yeah, like to me, it's like a district.
Yes, right.
Yes. Yeah, I think if you, like,
Yeah.
if I'm not familiar with this, if I'm Freeland, I'm going to look at the district page. I'm not
Mhm.
going to go to central office and look for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And I've always, I mean,
I did.
I've always written my like draft superintendent goals as essentially as district goals.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like they should be one and the same. You know,
Okay.
But it's not the revision, it's the targets.
Well, I think he has, did you, did you say that you're revising the comprehensive plan? That it's in need of revision?
yeah,
I think there's two things.
Okay.
Yeah, so he wants to revise the plan, but then he also wants to continuously update those strategic targets.
We'll meet the targets. And then update whatever comes now, like whatever else needs to happen.
Okay, so would that one be also by September of next year? Because that's an ongoing throughout the year event.
yeah, and I'm hesitant. I've always been hesitant too. I mean, there's a lot of strategic plans that are written like in year one, we're gonna do X, in year two, we're gonna do Y, and year three, we're gonna do Z. I don't know if anybody's actually successfully done each of those things as it was planned 3 years out, because things change. So again, back to just revisiting and recommunicating and having it be more of a living, breathing document, I think is more effective and authentic, frankly.
Yeah. Okay, so how does that look? So it says by September of 2024, complete comprehensive education plan revision. And then the second one by September of 2024, continuously revisit and communicate strategic targets.
Say that last part again.
Continuously revisit and communicate strategic targets. Those are that's what they're called in the strategic improvement targets.
That continuously update.
Hmm.
I don't know, I'm struggling with that one.
You want to hold off and come back to it a minute?
Yeah.
Maybe keep looking. Okay.
I think maybe we just should, to clarify, it needs to be updating it to reflect the needs of our students as we get the data in from, whenever Katie gets all of her updates.
Oh, like this, the targets would update as we get information?
Correct.
I would might say like, not by September 2024, but like on an ongoing basis, revisit and communicate strategic targets.
I like
That's not
that
really
better.
like- It's not like a deadline thing, like it's an
Yeah,
ongoing.
just
thing.
ongoing happening.
Yeah,
And nor is that necessarily measurable for us.
Right.
right.
Okay, so on an ongoing basis, revisit and communicate strategic targets. Strategic improvement targets.
Yes, that's what it's called.
Okay, so
Can you
the,
say at the end of the year that check that was done when it says ongoing?
I don't think it's ever done.
yeah, that's
I
gonna,
like, I
yeah,
agree with-
like
I
to see if he
agree
met
with
his
that
goals, you
statement.
mean?
Yeah. That's-
Well, at least with
yes.
that first one, though, I mean, the check mark is, some of the things that you would probably benchmark is the plan current, right?
Yeah.
And is it in a place that's
Where people can
accessible
find it.
and do people know about it, right? Has it been communicated, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's really what we're benchmarking. The rest of that is like that he
Yeah.
does this all the time so that
Yeah.
it's not dying on the shelf, right? It's, yeah.
Because as far as like, goal number 2, for example, that's more, focused on students, at least the first part of it, there's some measurable growth targets that we're going to be communicating for kids and their growth in math and reading, for example,
Yeah.
from fall to spring. MEA data that we'll finally be getting.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, that's coming right up, the first step, right?
Yeah.
All right.
October.
Mm.
Geez, that's next month. Next week.
More accessible or more visible.
I was, yeah. The updating the website, I think is like a sooner than later, so.
Yeah.
Like by the end of the year, would just, that gives a quarter to get it, because he might have to work with IT to get that. So by December,
You give them a decade, give them was it 1,000 years?
Yeah. you could have
24.
until 2033.
Well, and don't feel like too, with these, that you have to have every action to get there kind of fleshed out,
Yeah,
right? Like
right.
we have the overall goals kind of crafted and in place, and I can hit all the details.
So this next one I would like to break apart. So like how are you going to communicate it? Or what does that look like? Or do we just cover that up above?
Yeah, that's what I took from that, like we were parsing this out.
Yeah, and then, so then the first part's kind of like, I think we already said that.
Okay,
And then the second piece would be, leadership council will review staff feedback to set strategic goals for the upcoming
Yeah.
24-25. So I'm assuming this is forward looking. I'm assuming you set the goals for this year, or we're doing that right now. So it's not like a goal to set the goals that we just set. It's a goal to make sure we set the goals
for next year.
Yeah.
Our goal is
Makes
to make
sense.
sure that we set goals.
Yes. A goal of the goals.
Continuous improvement.
So Leadership Council will review community and staff feedback to set strategic goals for upcoming 2024-2025 school year.
I think that makes sense. Rather
Yeah.
than this school year, because I think you just did that.
Yep,
Like that was the check.
correct.
Yeah. The Next one. is sort
I think
of
we
like-
can delete it. 'cause
I
that
think
one
we're
is-
done with that one, yeah. Okay, so then this would read, the goal is the Scarborough Schools community will continue to refine and update our shared vision for how to continually strengthen our learning organization and impact the development of our learners K through 12. The objective is that families and staff will have a clear sense of how professional development efforts, curriculum alignment, innovative, authentic learning experiences, and community connections serve to strengthen learning in all schools and classrooms. The metrics are by September of 2024, complete comprehensive education plan revision. On an ongoing basis, revisit and communicate strategic improvement targets. And by December of 2023, update the website, make comprehensive education plan more visible. And Leadership Council will review community and staff feedback to set strategic goals for the upcoming 2024-2025 school year.
Can I don't want to nitpick, but update the website and then there's just sort of a attach. I mean, I don't know, like to make the comprehensive education plan more visible, is that just one of the things? Okay.
Is that what you mean? Update the website to make the, I guess I don't
Yes.
need that. To make the comprehensive education plan more visible.
Yeah, okay.
I guess. I
Is
should say.
that document translated also? So everyone has access, if there are language barriers?
English and Latin.
When you bring up the page on the website, you can use that little thing in the.
Oh, and it automatically swaps or translates on there.
Yeah, well, unless it's a
Unless
separate
it's a
document.
PDF.
It does, yeah, but let me see what happens when you are in the PDF, because I don't believe the PDFs do, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be wild.
Yeah.
We're
that-
getting
that
there. some-
doesn't-
It's just the page. So to Brian's question, if that's in a Google Doc, does Google Doc translate?
Never really tried it.
I haven't either.
Feel
So
like we
instead of a
should-
PDF, if that's a Google document, will it translate automatically?
Oh, we're in Mosaic's house. S'more, that translates, right?
Hmm,
It's s'more.
the S'more does and the website does,
Oh, the website.
but the PDF doesn't.
I should get an add-on.
It says translate document. It's
So
an
it would.
option. And then, so like, choose language. I'll just choose.
Then you'll never be able to get back.
It's not my problem.
Make a change, make it Mandarin.
I think it does, well, I'm sure it will translate because we're all in it, but if I made a copy, that would make you feel better.
I just want you to be able to get back to where you got to, not where I'm at
That's somebody else.
So I teach.
Yeah, because that's a good point, Jill, Jenna, to make sure it's accessible to all.
It's
Yeah.
excellent, yeah. Okay, so I'm in it, I've made a copy, I'm in it, and I'll just change it to Albany. See what happens.
Just add Jeff's phone number, he'll personally translate into every language for everyone.
I'm sure he would love.
Does it
That's
change?
Use of his time, right?
It looks, yes, I can't promise that it doesn't say something ridiculous, but.
But it did translate. So that might be,
It's not English.
that might be a way to make the documents that are PDFs on our site translatable.
But the thing is so we're in editing mode. I, you know, let me see if
It's
I
not
put it
editing
in
mode.
viewing mode, if I.
Oh, yeah, can you change if it's?
Seems like it. Although it's not in part of the toolbar, I had to search for it.
So it's not so easily found.
But having something is better than having nothing. And right now our
Yeah.
PDFs don't translate.
Well, and if somebody has their computer already set to, I don't know, Arabic, for instance, I would think most of it within, especially the browsers automatically, I don't know for sure. I'd need a tech person to tell me, but I would think a lot of stuff would automatically transition over. Maybe that's just wishful thinking.
I'm playing around with it. I'm not sure what I'm doing. So
God, make a copy, Shannon. If I'm in.
I mean, I think
If I'm
that-
in view only.
I think
can-
that's a good question as part of why we're giving him until December to figure it out, because I think part of
Yes.
that can be Jeff and tech kind of working together to say, we want this to be accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
How do we do? Because I bet if we talk to some of our tech people, they'll have
They
a
have a,
much faster answer than we will.
yeah,
They're offering-
yeah.
Right, we could be here all night trying to translate things and test it out.
True.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
They'll get
so
that.
maybe
okay.
we can add on there to ensure accessibility.
Oh, they do have an option for a translate in sidebar, so if that could, but I don't, you know, so.
It could
To
be
your
embedded with
point.
the document that, you know, by somebody more skilled than us.
yeah, they could do it much faster.
Do we need any metrics
like-
around? One of Jeff's, that get mentions in the objective about professional development efforts and curriculum alignment. Do we need any metrics surrounding those things?
Well, I think the curriculum might be in goal 2,
Okay.
right? Because we're really talking about,
That's true. Yep. Professional development.
yeah,
yeah, so there's a whole lot in there.
Yeah, that's.
You know, the first bullet is being able to benchmark achievement. And then it's really kind of like this year in particular, the staff has, and it plays out a lot differently depending on what phase level, but as far as professional learning is really centered around social emotional learning, you know, and so that's really the theme and emphasis of a lot of our PLT time and PD time. It's not the only thing, obviously, but it's a big piece of aligning that work in concert with, and that also fits in with, you know, our tiered student supports that are individualized for kids, as well as, you know, work on culturally responsive teaching, inclusive and safe classrooms, connectedness, that kind of thing. So they're all kind of around the overall well-being and
Mhm.
development of our kids.
There was a cell table at the open house yesterday. They did a good job of communicating out information about what's going on in the schools, I thought. So it was available for parents
Yes.
walking by.
Yeah.
It was right by the library.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And they
it was
gave out
good. And they were like, very much like, this is what's going on in the school. This is the information they're handing out, some,
Yeah.
like, piece of paper. The building project was also doing that and are really at the front of the school, but I know for Cell, in terms of this idea of communicating out and like making sure people understand it, like that was a really good.
Yep.
They were in a good spot. They were very highly visible and I thought they were pretty effective. People were stopping.
Yeah, people were, yeah. but
What's
she's-
what's really been profound about it too is that it's not just, I mean, it is about our kids, but it's also about staff. Right, so it's also social emotional health of our staff as well as our kids, and it's around like, you know, this idea of like, you know, there's the teacher thing, you know, like classroom management, don't smile till, you know, Thanksgiving or whatever it is, or, you know, set those routines. I mean, obviously that's outdated, but the idea is like not, all right, this isn't about classroom management so much as it's about culture management, you know, it's about managing culture or classroom, school culture, right? And that's framing it that way is different and I think really healthy too. And it leads to more engaged learners. It's, you know, it's gonna impact, you know, skill development, all that kind of stuff.
So should some of that, because I agree and I really like the sound of that. And I know one thing that I really liked seeing was, I mean, what was this now? It was probably a couple months ago, but we saw survey results from staff that were shown like their rankings of how they felt coming into the school and did they feel like they belong? I forget the exact questions, but it was to really grasp, do you feel like you're connected to the community? But I almost wonder if you're asking, like this objective is around students, but I do feel like as a superintendent, you're mentioning, right, the importance of it for staff as well.
Yeah.
Should that be tied in here? Because, right, I think we all see that if our boss in any job, right, is happy, there's a good chance we'll be happy too, right? Because they'll be motivated, they'll be passionate about what they're doing. So we know that about teachers too. It's very easy to get burnt out. And a lot of teachers do change school districts because they don't feel like they belong. So that's why I really liked when that survey came out. But I feel like you're speaking to that. I'm just not, at least for me, I'm not seeing it in here.
Well, I mean, what's interesting though is that it like, I've been on a couple of initial sessions of like mind up training, for example, with teachers, and it also incorporates their own health and feelings of connectedness along those lines, not just here's what you do with kids, but here's how you're creating that school culture and classroom culture together.
I think we talk about retention, right? We know, you know, anybody who knows anything about retention, it always saves whatever that business, or in this case, a school district, tons of money. Because you don't have to retrain people and whatnot. So, you know, maintaining that consistency of having a certain person, the expectations, you know what you're getting in that person if we keep them happy. So I don't know, for me, I just feel like there should be something in here that, you know, talks about the whole community, not just the students, because in turn, if we got happy teachers, we'll have happy students, right?
I wonder if that's how you could word it, exactly what you said. That's what I was saying, continue to strengthen the school culture or the school community.
Mhm.
And then,
So in turn, you're getting
in
everybody.
turn, you're seeing increased student success, you're seeing increased retention from your staff, you're seeing it becomes a district-wide culture.
Right. Yep. Because I see a lot of these metrics that we have in here do speak to, if staff are happy, they will work harder, right? Sometimes that's harder to measure, right? Like, you can ask the question, are you happy? But chances are, if a teacher's happy and wants to stay here and they feel like they belong, they're going to put in that extra effort to get those kids' scores up higher. They'll stay later, things like that. That commitment will be seen, I think, in other ways. I think it might be harder to measure it, but
Yeah.
I see that it fits in here too.
Right, and I think the major vehicle for that is having common goals and working collaboratively with your peers too, and feeling like you're part of a team, right? And
Right.
that can be hard in teacher land, particularly where it's, it can be very isolating, but it doesn't have to be that way. And so the more that we organize PD and organize the teacher experience around working with their peers, I think you have a better shot at, maintaining that level of.
So I separated out that goal a little bit into the goal and the objective, because I think the objective is that the original objective is all students will feel a sense of connection and belonging in Scarborough schools, but I think we could expand it and say all students and staff will feel a sense of belonging and connection with Scarborough schools. If we're going to expand this out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it fits for most of these, like the last bullet, cultivate inclusive school and classroom culture where students and staff feel, so it's not like tweaking these too much.
Yep, no, I like that.
Mhm.
I would even, just super picky words. I would even remove the will feel or the will from the will feel. All staff feel, because this is what we want it to be.
All staff feel
Yeah.
the sense of connection and belonging in Scarborough schools.
Anytime you can take out a word with anything that I've written, it's a good thing.
Same with me.
Do you know what that survey was that I'm referencing? I can't remember who held it, or was it just like an internal thing that was held with staff and they gave feedback as to how they,
May have been, we've done panorama survey.
just with the
Just
staff?
staff,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's probably during the
Since then.
panorama readout, it might have been part of
Yeah.
that.
Definitely was part of that.
Okay.
Is that stuff part of stuff that goes on the website? I don't think so, right?
I don't know.
It was definitely in the slide deck when Monique presented.
Yeah, Moni
Yes.
presented
Yeah.
it to us and that goes on the website. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's a standalone as part of a link on
No.
the website, probably not.
But I think the fact that it speaks to, we know that the panorama does both the students and the staff, that can
Oh, yeah.
easily be tied in here too, because that can speak to this objective.
Right, and then there was one also that we did for families. The families filled out as well.
Yeah. Okay, so on the goal 2, I think we just need to clean up the link or clean up the sentence. So is it going to be continue to strengthen Scarborough schools culture? I'm looking to you because you always.
I wouldn't say continue to strengthen, because that it's kind of redundant,
Yeah.
because you're strengthening it or you're not. So, or to foster almost, foster positive,
Foster an environment.
foster, like. Foster a school culture that supports student success, achievement, and well-being, and like that. And then I would take the continue out because
You just.
Okay, foster a school culture that supports student success, achievement, and well-being through ongoing development in all subject areas, district-wide support opportunity, student support opportunities, social emotional learning, and district-wide DEI work.
I would just say district-wide support opportunities, because we're offering them to staff as well, are we not?
yeah. I
Like if
agree.
we're gonna include both of them, we don't
Mhm.
want to.
So foster a school culture that supports student success, achievement, and well-being through ongoing development in all subject areas, district-wide support opportunities, social emotional learning, and district-wide DEI work.
I take the second district-wide out.
District-wide support
Right,
opportunities, oh, and DEI work, yeah,
Get word.
okay. How's that look? Foster a school culture that supports student success, achievement, and well-being through ongoing development in all subject areas, district-wide support opportunities, social emotional learning, and DEI work. And the objective there is that all students and staff feel a sense of connection and belonging in Scarborough schools.
The only other, I'm sorry, the only other thing I had in mind, well done. And I don't know if it's appropriate here or if it's appropriate for curriculum or what. But the one thing that keeps popping into my mind is don't hear about it much anymore, but I'm sure it still exists, is the learning gap from the COVID years, that how students felt in learning.
Yeah.
And just, I remember when we were being quizzed, our quiz day.
Yep.
That was one of the questions, was how are we gonna close that gap? And
Yep.
it was important to people. And it's important to me as mom.
Is some of that built into these
Well, that's-
benchmarks for achievement though, right?
So
Like, I feel like
Yeah,
from some of our conversation with
Yeah.
Katie, it's probably built in, I would think.
Right, and Katie's already done this, but and also we've looked back at some of the previous data that Monique shared, you know, just about our own internal measures, and you can see that there was, you know, that there wasn't a huge gap through the COVID years. You know, I mean, we don't have MEA data for that spring 2020. You know, but there wasn't like, I mean, there was definitely ground lost, and there was definitely you know, getting back to in-person learning has been huge, particularly for our youngest learners, but she was able to demonstrate some longitudinal analysis of where kids were through that hybrid year and then beyond, as well as we could. Right.
Yeah, the perception I have, and this might be wrong because I'm not in the education field, but from like kind of the sense I'm getting is that there's definitely a loss. I think different places have had different effects. But one of the universal effects of that COVID loss is almost how to show up to school and conduct yourself in a manner to be ready to learn.
The
So
behavioral
like
side.
the loss,
Yeah.
there's been educational loss, but there's also been this massive spike in mental health
Yeah.
needs, behavioral
Behavioral
needs
concerns.
that have just like, not like, just like kind of like exploded, like kind of this explosion of
Well,
that as much, which is really impacting learning for all students, because
Yeah.
if you have to teach kids how to circle up on a carpet because they've been home for an extra year,
Right.
that takes valuable learning time away from what you were planning to learn.
yeah, the routines of classrooms and that, you know, depending on how old you were when that hit. I mean, you
Yeah.
have some kids who had never been in a classroom environment at all, and all of a sudden they're in grade 1.
Yeah.
You know, or,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
Or grade 2 even.
or even grade 2. So, and there was also a significant number of kids in Scarborough in particular that chose to go fully remote during that hybrid year, you know, so. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely, and all the way through, I mean, you've had high schoolers who, you know, who are seniors, in the last time they were in school full-time, they were freshmen. It's like, whoa, my God, I got a year, now I'm graduating. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
That's a huge
crazy.
impact too, right?
Yeah.
So,
But,
Yeah.
Sure.
I do, to what I said before, though, I do think like both of your points are in here without saying the word COVID, right? Determining benchmarks for achievement in
Mhm.
math and reading. And I only know that because of what we talk about in the curriculum committee a lot of the time is we are paying attention to those gaps that happen prior. It's come up many times in conversations with Monique, so I would assume they'll continue with Katie on board. And then, you know, there's things on here about strength and social emotional learning. Well, we know we have gaps for COVID, you know, especially with some of the things that just came up with, you know, were you a freshman? Now you're a senior and you
Yeah.
lost a lot of that,
Mhm.
that social aspect, the ability to mature with your peers, right? You had to do it on your own.
yeah,
You know, so to me, I feel like it's in there without saying it, so I like it a little bit broader, but that's just me.
Yeah, right, because there's other kinds of gaps.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
you wanna
just,
be-
right.
You also want to be able to demonstrate a connection between the work that we're doing to reestablish those effective learning routines through social emotional health. And then benchmark that against, okay, well, here we're measuring their skills in math and reading. Are we seeing growth? You know, and are you seeing growth with individual students? And then are you seeing growth with a cohort of kids as they move, you know, through the grades? And that's something that, you know, that Katie's really looking to sink her teeth into, and that we've started talking about. So what that first bullet needs is to flesh out, okay, what are our growth targets going to be? You know, what's realistic, what's, you know, kind of comprehensive. And then how are we going to define those growth goals and then benchmark our progress as we work our way through.
So because we want to get on this quarterly reporting where we're hearing the progress. When is it achievable to determine that benchmark? Like, is it December? Is it?
Well, if you're measuring, like, if it depends on our case, so it depends on, you know, as far as measuring growth in a year, you know, we'll find that out at the end of the year, you know,
Yeah.
whenever we get the results of the spring MEA. And that helps not just inform specific interventions for kids, because you know, that's not really a formative, it's more of a summative measure, but it's also looking at, okay, how, you know, do we have some curriculum revisions we may need? Do we have, you know, there are certain areas where we were weaker and stronger in? So there's a lot of things that'll go into that analysis, but as far as like whether or not we hit our growth goal, that would be established at the end of the year. As far as like benchmarking how we did, I mean, we can report out what the fall MEA scores were like. But then if we're taking, okay, this is where they are now, and this is where they're going to be somewhere in the future, within a 1 year period, then that would happen at the end of the year.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out, like, I want to make sure we have a proper set of expectations among us as to when we're going to start seeing those quarterly progress reports. So I think that benchmark would come first, right? And then the quarterly progress reports. So are we saying that we might not see the quarterly progress reports until next year?
Well, so maybe the first one would report out on, here's where we were in the spring. Here's how how testing went in the fall, and just reporting on that. You're not necessarily going to be able to measure how much we've grown
Right.
over the course of a year until the end of the year, but that doesn't mean you can't check in and see, here's where we are.
Well, because most teachers are probably using Q1 to do that assessment, and then Q2, Q3, and then, you know, your final term for the year. Is that what you're saying? So like, I'm just thinking about, you know, when I taught, that's probably how I would have done it. Usually you take the first couple weeks of the school year, and, you know, I know a lot of that's been happening at the elementaries now too. As new kids come in, they're assessing them early on, trying to figure out where they're at. You know, we have our early intervention teachers that are down there too to help out with things. But I think from a report out standpoint, we'll have the MEA data soon. That's something that I know Katie, I think, has, but she wanted to go through before we shared it.
Yep.
So, so that we should have very soon actually to share. But that is technically from last year, right?
So, but is she using that information from last year to determine benchmarks for achievement in math and reading? Is that what she's using?
That's the benchmark. These will now be measured against that.
Yeah, against that data?
Yeah, it's just how
Okay.
you norm the NWEA when you take it in the fall versus when you take it in the spring is a little different.
Okay.
I recall Monique sharing with me how she had access to Power School, and some schools were using it more than others. And it was actually really neat what information was put in there. And I can't remember the specifics of the information in there, but maybe would we be able to pull data from that to get some sort of info for benchmarks, or I guess in lieu of NWEAs and other test scores, because I know some schools use it more. So I don't know if that can be streamlined to maybe we can get info better so we can meet this quarterly idea.
Yeah, I mean, you can, I mean, there's always more information to provide, but you won't know if we're hitting a growth goal until we've seen how they've grown over the course of the year.
Right, so she's setting, I think we're saying the same things, I'm just maybe saying it differently because I'm not an educator. I think what I'm hearing is Katie is setting the benchmarks in the fall. And then at the end of the year, she's going to measure and see where the growth has happened. Is that fair?
Right, because you have your fall assessment and
Yeah.
then you have your spring assessment.
Okay, so by the fall, so by, let's just say, November of 2023, she has benchmarks established.
We'll have the first round of NWEA scores, yes.
Okay. So I'll just put through to December. Does that feel? Are you okay over there?
Just
Stating.
my eye, really, it happens.
Yeah.
We call it COVID eye because it literally happened because of COVID.
Wow.
And it will just go up on its own.
Oh,
It's good times.
wow.
Yeah.
COVID issue.
My boss gives me a hard time on it all the time.
So it flutters. It just looks.
It's crazy.
Okay.
I can't stop.
So maybe, I know, so we're in September, our October workshop is going to be the DEI committee working on the charge and working on a governance document that the three of us have been working on. We're gonna all take a look at maybe redefining that committee a little. But then I don't know, I can't think off the top of my head, we have in November, but maybe December, our workshop is hearing the benchmarks and understanding.
Yeah. I think-
Right, like the MEA data, like maybe that's what we kind of, and then we would meet our goal, right, with the metric of December of 2023. And then the only other thing, like I like everything else under here, the only thing I go back to is Carolyn, your question about professional development, maybe that's better suited to fit in here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It
Yeah.
would make sense based on how we tweaked the objective.
Yeah,
definitely.
so maybe,
And I do really think your point, Brian, on just kind of staff feeling connected. It's rare where you get like a K-12 buy-in over this is our theme of PD for the year.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen
Yeah,
very often,
yep.
and we're there, and it's
Really?
cool, it's great,
That's
and the
great.
feedback, I think overall has been very good. I mean, you're always gonna have your outliers who are just being like, I've always done my own thing, I'm just gonna do my own thing, you know, like that kind of thing, but for the most part, everybody's really excited about learning together. And having that, and it's very hard to do that unless you have like a common theme. And it's, again, it's very differentiated depending on your role and what school you're in or what level you're
Yeah.
teaching, but having that common theme to kind of bring it together is really powerful.
And those are some of, I feel like I harp on things sitting on the building committee too, but not to harp on the fact that we're working on trying to get a school over here. But that is one of the huge intangibles that doesn't have a price tag to it.
Right.
That has a benefit of combining our schools, because
Yeah.
now you don't have to worry about 3 different potential cultures in an elementary school, but you
Right.
have one.
mhm.
Yes.
Right, and I think that, you know, honestly, I think
Right.
people need to spend more time in the schools like we've been trying to get them to do, you know, inviting them on tours and things like that. Not to go down that road, but I think it speaks to that, you know, there's a huge value to maintain what you're starting to accomplish now, and you feel like the district has, it becomes so much easier to maintain that over the long haul when you can take 3 schools potentially and merge them into one, and you share those resources constantly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it creates an equitable
Mhm.
learning situation.
Right.
What are we trying to say about PD? So like, what are we trying to provide more PD? Are we trying to provide effective PD? It's really hard to gauge effective PD, I think. What's the, like you can, like, do you know what I mean? Like you can provide it, but you're hoping it's effective, obviously, is why you're providing. it.
Yeah, I mean, I
There's no
think-
way to measure that.
right, and we've already gotten feedback because there's some commonality to what's being delivered.
Yeah.
Right, so, you know, and the staff had a lot of input over Choosing Mind Up and Ruler and some other kind of yeah, things aligned. I don't want to say it's like it's not like a curriculum, but it is. I mean, it's, it's, so. I think there are opportunities to obviously get informal feedback, but then also more formal feedback from staff.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
almost
how it's
wonder if
going.
it's provide professional development opportunities to support. I almost want to say support staff based on their ongoing needs. Because I feel like sometimes staff will say, oh, well, we could really use XYZ, and then school districts will then bring in a speaker or an expert that talks about whatever that is, or cover SEL, which, last year I know we had a PD day on for the staff, so I don't.
Yeah, I mean, if you just had a bullet that's, the professional development linked to the SEL curricula that's being implemented K to 12. Because that really is the professional development focus for the year. And then getting feedback from staff on the efficacy of
That's,
that PD.
that's the
Continuous
way
feedback.
feedback is sort of to provide the professional development opportunities, linked to SEL, because that's what this year is about.
Yeah,
And then, collecting feedback from staff to ensure.
Well, and you do that, right? I feel like that's,
Yeah.
the surveys have been shared with us from Diane, I know in the past
Yeah.
about, this is the feedback we got from whoever came in or whatever was spoken about during that day.
right.
But the goals don't have to be new necessarily, like
No.
we need to grow, they may
Mhm.
become new or evolve, but like if. Like something like this, like we're due PD every year. So like,
Well, and this is, yeah,
we
and
should, like, that's a goal, but we like. Just because we met it before doesn't mean we don't want to meet it again.
Oh, especially if it's important, right?
Yeah,
Reinforce it.
When you revamp the beginning of school year this year in a big way, which sort of supports this also.
yep.
So the two bullets would be provide professional development opportunities linked to SEL curricula. That's one. And then the second is collect feedback from staff on effectiveness of professional development.
You could always link those with an and if you wanted to.
And
You don't have to.
we don't have to have two. Yeah.
Conjunction junction.
Based on feedback.
Okay,
We get it.
all right.
Yeah,
We
get
feel
it.
good about number two.
Can I just ask, when we were talking about the MEAs and stuff, as a parent and, I've sat through the curriculum meetings and that helps me, but when I get one of those reports, I'm like, so my kid can't read, like what's happened, like I totally panic and I know better, but I'm like looking at this, like, I don't know what this means.
I know that Monique loved iReady. I hate that form. It's
Yeah.
useless to parents.
I was gonna say maybe in the curriculum committee, because that's good feedback, maybe I'm thinking just like real simple, similar to what we did on the building committee. Where we have a video now that we can share with people to kind of get them started, like, hey, start here. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, we might be able to ask Katie to, hey, can you give us a 2-minute spiel on this? That goes out with that data. That way people watch this first and it maybe helps explain it.
Link.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
yeah.
So much information that there's no useful place to put it.
Mm.
Like, what do I do with this piece of information? Like, it's,
well, and it can help them with next steps. So if you feel like this catches you off guard, right? Please reach out to the teacher and set up a meeting and talk, whatever the process is, right?
Yeah, I just feel a little bit like the teachers, like, I'm sure that they're like, oh my God, I hate to leave these out. Because they probably get like 10,000 emails, like, because people it's not intuitive.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering if there's a more intuitive way to present the information so that it brings the parents along a little bit.
Yeah.
And doesn't bombard the teachers and freak us all out.
Yeah, well, that might be a good stopgap, I mean, in terms of like, if it clarifies some things that are maybe easily clarified, maybe not, but with a short video,
Yeah,
just on how to look at it and what it means,
yeah,
maybe that would help,
and also
or maybe it would just confuse people further.
also dispose of iReady.
oh, yeah, I, like,
That's the overarching message.
No, I don't mind already. I'm totally fine with the assessment. It's just, there's so much information in those reports
Yeah.
that it's almost meaningless. And I've been personally frustrated with the conversation I've had about already, and my teachers hate when it comes out.
Yes, I know.
Hate when I am like a dog with a bone. I want every question answered.
Right.
They're like, it's a snapshot, it's a snapshot. I understand exactly what it is. I still need to know everything.
Right, like, what does this mean?
So maybe Katie can help in this
I should make it
video.
with Katie and be like.
Yeah, she's
Right,
like, just
like-
do it, film it in our office, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but even talking about that, because I
Yeah.
think that would be important, maybe I wrote it down, but we can bring it up in curriculum committee to be like, hey, talk to the teachers, maybe get some, it'll be a good chance for her to connect with them too, to be like, what do you typically see after those results? And what do you think would
Yeah,
be
what questions
beneficial
are
to
you
share
having?
up
Yeah.
front?
Yeah,
It would be
Yeah.
helpful to know how
Should figure
students
that
in
out.
our district are doing, because they're compared nationally with 100 million other people, right?
Right.
So like across the nation, we get a dot on a graph. But like I actually do understand what it says. I get,
It just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but what I don't know is how is that information comparative to Scarborough? So how is my kid doing compared to other Scarborough kids, and how is our classroom doing? In the context,
Yeah.
you can't put in context the information on that graph without understanding the context of your student's classroom. I like, again, this is why they're not irritated, they've been very patient with me, but like I harass the living Jesus out of that. Like literally, like
I know.
email after email, I mean,
Yeah.
like 10, 15 long email chains, because I want to know everything.
I know. Yeah.
all right, you have that written down?
I wrote it. We're-
Yeah, I'm that
Okay,
parent.
we have 10 minutes.
Right away.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes and I think we can do this. So I'm gonna refocus us back to goal number
What
3.
to do with
What to do with
the difficult.
relative-
Be realtor opinion.
All right, so goal number 3, sure, I'm gonna separate it out again to the goal and the objective. So the goal is to collaborate with town leadership, town manager and others, Board of Education and town council. Objective is to align the school growth needs with other town department expansion or development projects.
I think this is a obvious. way
Yeah.
To like continue.
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah,
have no
right.
changes outside of that here.
Yeah, I mean,
And I have to say that I think Jeff, you're doing a really good job. with
Yes,
this one.
absolutely.
Really.
I think we've come a long way since
Yeah.
you've been here. It's really. It's really great to see, and I think that this is what has likely helped push the momentum for the school project. For sure.
I mean, I don't know necessarily know that you need to, I mean, I feel like you maintaining the relationship with the town manager, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like that's, I mean, I guess you could build it up more, but
You maintain instead of build, you mean? Continue to maintain
I
a
just say
collaborative
maintain.
relationship?
yeah,
They
maintain.
continue to, I'll just say maintain.
Yeah, I mean, I give Tom a lot of credit and Norm and everyone else and Todd and the council. And I mean, they've been so invested and involved,
Yeah.
which was not the case
No.
pre-COVID.
No?
And it with obviously like a project this size, I mean, it has to be working together, otherwise.
And then I just want to change the third one, take out, continue, and just say guide and advise the building steering committee. Good.
Yeah, communicate, and educate the community to that. I mean, we obviously need to continue to communicate and educate.
Mhm.
And I mean, that'll be valid that throughout the next year, because even beyond a referendum,
Yeah, they'll have to start
right,
what, building if it's
people
approved.
need to know what the progress is.
When it's approved.
Yes, when it's. Thanks.
All right, so are we all good on Jeff's goals?
Yes.
You know, I've done in 8 minutes.
Okay, so
Ours are really
ours,
short.
yeah, ours
And
are
we just-
short and ours have just been done. So I really am wondering, is there any, I can go through and read, just, is there any changes we need to make? Do we feel like these are still applicable? We just did these a few months ago. And this is as a reminder, the reason we're looking at them again so soon is because we're adjusting the schedule because of elections, when the board members are elected now. So these we literally just did, I think we did them in March or April, so they're very, very new. And at that time, if you remember, I said, we probably don't need to do these now, and then we ended up doing it, and so now that we're on this side of it, we don't really, I think, have a lot to do on this side, just really verifying that this is what we want to continue to focus on. Goal 1 says collaborate with town council and the larger community to build the new primary school consistent with the building steering committee's goals and timelines and in a fiscally responsible manner. So number 1, we can take, well, I guess we should not take number 1 off. Number 1 is, action item is acquire land for the school. Action item number 2 is get the referendum passed.
Yeah, and I mean, so this is.
It has to stay. We haven't achieved it yet.
Acquire land now, because first of all, we can't acquire land. We can never achieve this goal.
Right,
We identified the land and
yeah,
it's tied to the referendum.
yeah,
You okay?
I don't know what I just talked about. I lost everything and
I know,
I
I saw your face.
I was like, did somebody just get injured or died?
thought I lost everything from my computer.
That was
Okay,
terrible.
that would be terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna take acquire land off for the
Yeah.
school off.
yeah.
I just don't think that's, we can't.
Well,
We
we've already
can't.
done this.
And we've already
Yeah,
identified.
We've already done it.
Can
No.
kick in, but
So really, we have one goal, we have one piece of the school left, and that's get the referendum
I
passed.
think that's where we are in the process.
Where
we are in the process.
Sorry, there we go.
It was 6 weeks to work on the school.
Yep.
Yeah, well, but I mean, like, we could add in also an effective communication strategy. Which is how to get the referendum. I mean, get the referendum passed, it's really kind of. But I don't know if you want more detail, but
I don't think we should bother breaking it down at this point because we're
I
past the
agree.
point. And like, and the building steering committee has that.
yeah,
breakdown.
I mean, yeah.
They have the
we're-
plan.
Right.
And we all feel like we should still be doing this. This is still applicable for us.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, just,
Yeah.
affirmative.
it could go. to
We will
3.
still pay attention to other aspects of student.
Yes.
Yeah, I think everybody, I think it's fair to say that the day-to-day has not gone by the wayside,
No,
for sure.
Yeah, focus on effective communication. Yeah, but we definitely need to, so there it is right there.
Oh, on number 2, or you're on, moving on. Okay, so yeah, goal 2.
You've moved on and not told us.
Yeah.
gotta catch up.
So goal 2 is promote and grow a district-wide culture of trust, inclusion, and collaboration. I don't know why that's capital. Okay, and then action item 1, focus on effective communication with the community, staff, and students. Action item number 2, host 2 staff and student-centered workshops annually. And action number 3 is consistent with the DEI committee's charge, promote diversity, equity, and inclusion at all levels.
Yeah, so when we go about reviewing our success in the communication front of community, staff, and students. I mean, how are we going to measure that? I'm not trying to run
The
this out,
third
I swear
one,
to
the
God.
first one, or the second one? Which one are we measuring?
Uh,
The whole
The
thing?
community, the first
effective
one.
communication to these 3 groups.
That I think we can, because I think we've gotten feedback about our communication, and I think the feedback has triggered changes in how we communicate. The most obvious example to me is the teacher assignments in Wentworth and the way that appointments were scheduled for the beginning of the year in the elementary school level. I don't know about the older grades because there's not kids there. But that was, and there's a lot of community feedback about that, and I thought, well, that was much smoother because I picked my appointment the day it came out.
Yeah.
And I had no complaints about being able to reserve that time. Whereas if it's the week before, I guarantee you that I'm booked that day.
Right.
Because I used to harass secretaries. I am the parent. I am that parent. I harassed their secretaries in July asking for dates and they would just give me my own special slot.
Well, and I think too,
One is self-awareness.
Yeah, self-aware, right.
It is.
First step.
And I think in addition to that, I think that's a
We're
really,
changing them.
No, I just said first step. That's it.
I think that's a really good example. And I think the other way we measure this is how are we responsive? How responsive are we? And so we set an internal goal as a board is that we will respond to emails within 1 week's time.
Okay.
And so are we meeting that? Are we constantly and consistently meeting that? And that goes for me, that goes for Jeff, that goes for, right, staff, like that's our expectation as a district. And so I think we can measure that way too.
And I think feedback, right? There was a recent
Mhm.
feedback, somebody got, one of the forums we held and somebody had some feedback as how we might have come off. And I think the fact that maybe the public doesn't feel this way, but we are actually taking that feedback
Yeah.
and listening
Yeah.
to it, right? And
Yep.
if somebody hears it, we're sharing it with everybody
Yep.
else. And so I think we are trying to get better. Nobody's
Yeah.
perfect. And I
Right.
think, you know, you're always going to be judged when you're in a public spotlight. So
Yeah.
you know, I try not to take that to heart, but I think that I think we are trying to pay
Yeah.
attention to those
Yeah,
things.
absolutely.
And I also think we get a lot of feedback from the community about communication, so I think it should
Mhm.
be an ongoing goal. Like, I think
Yeah.
we-
Yeah.
But
I
I
think
think
right.
we've made
Yeah.
steps that I've seen this year, and I'm sure
Yep.
there have been steps behind that I didn't see as obvious, but there are steps this year that people really did.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, that the communications committee has been doing is the Q&A sessions or the community outreach, which is really, when we've said this a few times, right? That's really the community's opportunity to engage with us, where we're
Yeah.
not just, thank you for your comment and
Right,
that's it, right? Like it's back and forth. And so those are the ways I think we judge.
yeah. All right,
Yeah,
I guess we'll see how we feel in the spring.
yeah.
I like happen in November.
All right, and goal 3, continue to strengthen student success, achievement, and well-being through ongoing development in all subject areas, district-wide student support opportunities, social emotional learning, and through district-wide DEI work. And then the action item, the superintendent will report quarterly progress on all aspects of academics, including those with benchmarks, which we just aligned with
Yeah, I was gonna say those
Yeah.
last two fit really well with what we just.
what we just did with Jeff.
Yep.
Do you want me to take out the second district-wide?
Please.
Yeah, that's-
I do, but it's.
I can
okay.
have-
Really bothering
I can
us.
Because
I like how they mirror each other also, to be honest. I like how the
Yeah.
superintendent goals mirror the board goals. I think that's really a good thing. Because we
Yeah.
should be on the same page.
it should be doing the same things. Yeah,
Some words already. 7 o'clock, that's good.
perfect. All right, so we will take a quick break. Is the link the same for Jenna?
It is.
Okay, so we'll just move around, Jenna. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Agenda item for the workshop, agenda item 5.0 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn the workshop?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, can we call the vote, please? Sorry.
Oh. Where'd it go? Here we go. Ms. Gammon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Mariano,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Mr. Shumway,
Yes.
Ms. Ledger's out.
Yeah. All right, so thank you so much and welcome to the Thursday, September 21st, 2023 Scarborough Board of Education Business Meeting. Can we please call the attendance?
Yes, Ms. Gammon,
Here.
Mr. Kelleher,
Here.
Ms. Leong,
Here.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Here.
Mr. Mayorino,
Here.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Here.
Ms. Trapani Huff.
Here.
And Mr. Shumway,
Here.
and Ms. Ledger is
She's been excused, yes.
excused.
Perfect. And then can everybody please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Agenda item 4.0 are adjustments to the agenda. I understand there's an adjustment tonight.
Right, so under new business, 7.1, the motion to approve the superintendent's and school board's goals will not be acted on tonight. That's going to be rescheduled for the next meeting.
So, I think we have to take a vote.
So a motion to approve the adjustment to the agenda?
Do I have a motion?
What?
Did you motion?
Oh, we want to motion that? Yes.
So moved.
Yeah, I thought he was motioning. I'm like, can he do that?
Nope.
No, he's asking.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? I'll just really quickly explain why we're removing this from the agenda tonight. We're removing it so that people, the community members have an opportunity to read through the goals that we discussed tonight and drafted. They will be on the website tomorrow with the materials, and the community will have the opportunity to weigh in as appropriate, and we will vote on them at our next meeting. Okay, can we call the vote, please?
Ms. Gammon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom.
Yes.
Mr. Mayorino,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. All right, agenda item 5.0 is public comment. And is there anybody wishing to make public comment this evening? All right, seeing none, I will close public comment. Agenda item 6.0 is the new school building project update. We are moving right along with the school building committee, steering committee. There has been an update to the question and answer session. So there was one that was scheduled for this Sunday. We received feedback from the community that perhaps a Sunday isn't a great day for the community members to attend and to participate. So we decided to change that date. It is now going to be the 10th. And it is going to be held in conjunction with a special meeting with the residents of Sawyer Road. So from 6 to 7, it will be the question and answer session, which will cover the location and the site selection process that the committee undertook to arrive at the Downs as the spot. And then at 7 o'clock, from 7 to 8, will be a special meeting with Tom Hall. The town manager has invited over 200 residents that are on and off right off of Sawyer Road that would likely be impacted by the school project to come in to have a special meeting. So to see the dates in more detail, we've been working through, the reason there's not a slide is we've been working through the going through materials and updating them as appropriate. So you can find that on the website now. But just know there is no session, no question and answer session on Sunday. This Sunday, it is now October 10th. All right.
Will that be right?
Oh, thank you. That will be at the Public Safety Building. Yes, the classroom right there. All right. Other updates, the building steering committee is really focusing on, educating the public as a whole, on the why behind the project. Why are we doing this? The urgency behind it, what this entails. So that's really is the focus from here through November for election day. As everyone here knows, it was asked, and suggested by town council that we hire an education consultant. So we've done that, and we've been really focused on, and the reason why is because there was concern that the larger community didn't understand the project or why we were doing that. And so that's why it was really directed at us to hire someone. So we did, and that's what we've really been focused on, is just making sure the community as a whole knows what this is, what this unified school means, and what a K-8 strategic plan is.
I think that's really wise, because when I go to one of my sons, their practice, and
Mm.
so I talk about it there with the
Yeah.
parents, and a lot of people aren't, some people say like, oh, I'm gonna pay attention to it later.
Mm.
I'll get educated later,
Yeah.
when it's, right before it's time to vote. So I think this is a great idea.
Thank you, Karen. Are there any other questions or comments on where we're at? All right. So that brings us to the new agenda item 7.0, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All right, can we call the vote?
Ms.
please?
Gammon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leon,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom.
Yes.
Mr. Mayorino,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian.
Yes.
Mr. Feeny Huff,
Yes.
and Mr. Shumway,
Yes.
who's gonna run under 17? Is that what's gonna happen? 17 minutes, I guess.
All right. We look
pressure.
forward to hearing about that.
No pressure.
All right, everybody have a great evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.